to help incentivize people buying an electric vehicle. What's a novated lease? And that's where you have an agreement with your employer. They take some of your pre-tax income as an employee, it doesn't really matter what you're earning, and they use that to pay for the financing and the operations of running your car. One of the benefits of at least paying all from what we call your pre-tax income, so that money's not taxed before you're paying for your expenses. Also, there's no GST that's attributable to a vehicle, and you can use it 100% of the time on EVs. Private use. A typical at least would save the person about $3,000 or $4,000 compared to just taking out personal finance. And what's interesting is that we're seeing all sort of income brackets which benefit from taking out a novated lease. And I've got an example in here, an employee earning $80,000, taking out a novated lease on a petrol or diesel car, just as an example, would save around about or reduce their taxable income by about $2,500 a year. And person who's earning $180,000, a lot more, would only save around about $400 a year. So the relative benefit is much greater for someone who's on a typical income of around about $80,000 a year. What are some of the things that you can consider about a novated lease? One, obviously, it's a financial commitment, so you need to understand what the costs and the fees are, making sure that the repayments are affordable for you, that the lease term is right for you. With a novated lease, you will make payments through the term of a lease. Then we have what we call a balloon or a residual payment at the end. So you need to be aware of what that payment will be and what are the terms for that. And also it's important to consider what your employment status and job security is. A novated lease is meant to run. If it's a typical novated lease is 4 years, and if people are looking to take it out for 4 years, if it runs shorter than that, then there are fees and costs associated with that. And we'd always say make sure you get some financial advice. With electric vehicles, also with a normal novated lease, you pay what they're called fringe benefits tax. So the government taxes these leases, and you have to pay fringe benefits tax, which normally could be around about $5,000 a year on the lease. With an electric vehicle, the government said, we're going to make you exempt from paying tax on that purchase. And we've just got an example here for electric vehicles. So electric vehicles qualify for this tax exemption if they're under $91,000 for the cost of the electric vehicle, and they need to be first delivered, i.e. new, from July 2022. So that's when the legislation came in. So if your electric vehicle, delivered from July 2022, so in the last 3 years, and it's under $91,000, it would qualify. And just to give you an example here, got someone earning $120,000 who's purchasing a BYD car for around about $56,000. Essentially, they will save around about $8,000 a year compared to just going and purchasing that electric vehicle outright. So it's a very significant savings. We are now seeing in Australia about 50 to 55% of all EVs that are being bought in Australia are being bought via a novated lease and this FBT exemption. And that's up from only 1 or 2% in 2022. And I just wanted to give you an example here of the benefit of the FBT exemption. So we've taken a Tesla Model Y at $70,000. It doesn't matter that it's a Tesla, but just assume the electric vehicle is $70,000. I can, under the FBT exemption, I can buy or lease this $70,000 EV for essentially the same after-tax cost as a $49,000 RAV4. So as I said, it's about a $20,000 to $25,000 benefit over the term of the lease. So under this example, the employee would only pay another $375 a year to own and operate the Tesla or the $70,000 EV, compared to the RAV4, which is a $49,000. It's a hybrid, so it doesn't qualify for this exemption. So it's a very significant saving that's enabled. That's about it from me, Rebecca. I've gone really quickly, but except to say, hey, there's certainly EVs. We'll see a lot more on the roads in coming years. What we're also seeing in regional Australia is more of the plug-in hybrids that are being bought compared to battery electric. So we're probably seeing half as many, again, plug-in hybrids that are being bought in regional Australia or rural Australia compared to metropolitan. That's because these plug-in hybrids, you don't have to charge. If you don't want to charge it, you don't have to. Unlike an electric vehicle, but they're also available in the larger, as I said, the Ford Ranger, the BYD Shark, and some other variants, the larger vehicles as well.
So thanks all for joining. So thanks also to Rowan for that presentation. There's a lot which will be overlapping, so I've sort of cut out what he already spoke about. So I'm going to talk about e-bike leasing. So my company Spark is a provider for e-bike leases. We work also together with a lot of the salary packaging providers and leasing companies that Rowan's association represents. So we're quite familiar with their processes. So that is in many cases for different employers the sort of route to start offering e-bikes as a salary packaging benefit as well. So there's a few of the things Rowan described, which basically work exactly the same for e-bikes as they work for cars and EVs. There's a couple of differences as well, so I'll talk about that a little bit. So quickly about Spark, we are based in Melbourne. We've been operating since 2016. When we got the first tax ruling from the ATO that basically establishes the e-bike as a benefit that is potentially exempt from fringe benefits if you use the bike for commuting and work-related travel. And so since then, we've been building the business, building the network. We work together with over 250 different employers around the country, a lot of government, not-for-profits, health industry, education, some corporates and small to medium-sized businesses as well. We've got our own stores and showrooms in Melbourne and Perth, and then we've got a nationwide network of support partners, including in Bendigo, in Castlemaine, in Mildura. So a few of the different places in the regions of the councils organising today's event as well. So if we think about why would you choose an e-bike for your commute, the average commute for many people, and this may not always be true, of course, in regional areas, I realize that, but even there's plenty of people whose commute is less than 10 kilometers, and that is a great sort of distance, especially with an e-bike to cover, which gives you savings in terms of time potentially, mainly in urban areas where you can skip traffic jams, which may not be as much of an issue in regional centres. Saves you money with not having to pay for parking. And the leasing also allows you to have a really high quality bike without having to spend a lot of money up front. And it gets you your daily dose of regular exercise. So it's like a very easy way to incorporate a regular exercise into your daily routine by using an e-bike to commute and for your other transport needs. And of course, an e-bike is very sustainable. So compared to even electric vehicles, of course, it's a lot less materials, a lot less resources required, a lot less energy required to propel it forward than a bike. So that's something to consider as well. I guess the main sort of challenge that we see, or that we see when we talk to people, is they want to start doing this and don't need to convince their employer, because it's still a relatively new benefit. So employers may not always be aware that this is a possibility, or they may be hesitant to add a new benefit to their menu of options that they offer for staff. So in order to facilitate that, we've tried to make the process for payroll as simple as possible. There's no fees for the employer. Like with the electric vehicles that Rowan talked about, all the deductions for the e-bike lease are pre-tax. So the e-bike is fully exempt from fringe benefits tax in that sense as well. And they're also fixed for the life of the lease. So there's no like reconciliation of operating budgets and all of these things that sometimes employers find tricky with car leases. And it helps, of course, your employer to boost their sustainability credentials. So as more and more organizations have sort of very specific sustainability targets, adding this as an option for staff might be one of the ways in getting closer to achieving those targets. And research has shown around the world and also in Australia that people that ride their bikes to work tend to be happier and healthier on average than the average staff member. So that also, of course, is not only for you, but also for your employer, a nice benefit. All right, so to give you a bit of a sense of what this might look like, this is an example for a bike that's sort of in the higher end of the range. So the bikes that we support, they start at around $3,000 retail value, but the average bike that we see leased by people is more like 6,000 or 7,000, which really sort of confirms that that makes the lease attractive, and also it allows people to just get a better bike, a higher quality bike than they would otherwise purchase if they do an outright purchase. So this is like a almost $9,000 bike, which if you would lease it, would cost you about $6,000 on a 24-month plan, and then there's a buyout value at that point, a balloon value if you want to keep the bike, of about $3,500. That lease includes all the servicing and parts. So this is for this might be like semi-annual servicing for most people. So every 6 months, take it into one of our service providers. That might be our own workshop, or if you're regional, into one of our service partners that we work with. They will do the servicing for you, both labor and replacement parts. So like brake pads, tires, rotors, all of that is included, and they will just send the invoice directly to us. It will also effectively give you an extended warranty, because Spark will take care of all those service and maintenance requests and requirements. So also repairs of any parts that fail outside of warranty is included in the lease. It includes insurance against accidental damage and theft. And with that also comes the requirement for locks. So that a lock that is compliant with those insurance requirements is also part of the lease package. And in many cases, there's also roadside assistance. In regional areas, a little bit more tricky, because that operates through Uber and 13 cabs as basically a taxi service that will pick you up with your bike and take you to a bike shop, or take you home, or take you to work. And then we can sort out to get the bike back running. So all of that is included in the lease, whereas obviously if you would have the bike as your own property, then you would still need to pay for those things, assuming that you want to actually service the bike regularly to keep it running, especially if you use it daily as a commuting tool in everyday weather. Then there's going to be some costs involved to make sure that it keeps running smoothly over time. Insurance on bikes, unfortunately, not very cheap, because they do tend to be targets of theft sometimes. So, but that also is included in the lease, as well as that lock and the rider rescue service. So on this specific example, this is for someone who's on a very average, on an average wage of about $70,000 or $80,000 in that same tax bracket over 24 months. It would save them about $1,600 on that bike, including those services. Plus, you don't have to pay for all of it up front. So that gives you some extra flexibility in that regard as well. All right, I will leave it here. And there's obviously time for questions now. We'll be around for a little bit. So yeah, looking forward to hearing your thoughts. And thanks for coming along.